I never expected my marriage to fall apart over something as small as a forgotten date. But I guess the small things are where the real weight sits, the things that reveal more than grand gestures ever could. Our 10th anniversary fell on a Saturday that year. I remember because I'd circled it in red on the calendar 6 months in advance, digitally and on paper. I'd planned ahead like a man in love does. I made a reservation at the Italian restaurant where we had our first real date, the one where she wore a yellow sundress and smiled at me like she actually saw me. Back then, everything she did felt like a promise. 10 years later, I stood at the kitchen counter stirring her coffee just the way she liked it. Honey instead of sugar, oat milk instead of cream. She walked in, distracted, already tapping away at her phone. "Morning," I said. She didn't look up. I slid the mug toward her and waited, just to see if the date would land in her mind. I gave her space. Maybe she was still waking up. Maybe it would hit her after her first sip. But all I got was a distracted sip and a muttered, "Thanks." No happy anniversary. No kiss. No card tucked into my bag like she used to do back in the early days, when she'd leave little notes with doodled hearts and reminders that she loved me more than coffee. I let it go, for the morning at least. I told myself she was busy, overwhelmed, maybe even planning something in secret. Maybe there was a surprise waiting, and I'd ruin it by being too eager. Around noon, I texted her a picture of a place setting at the restaurant. Just a little nudge. Nothing. By 3 p.m., I called. Straight to voicemail. Her status? In a meeting. I didn't get mad. Not immediately. Anger takes energy. And by that point in our marriage, I'd learned how to ration my hope carefully, like a man on a sinking ship sipping the last of the fresh water. What stung most wasn't that she forgot. It was that it didn't matter to her. I spent the afternoon walking. Through the park. Down the avenue. Past the florist where I used to buy her tulips. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to sit on the couch and pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. So I called Emily. Her sister. Emily had always been different. Gentler. Quieter. She noticed things. People. Moments. Moods. There was a kindness in her that felt easy, like breath. I didn't call her with any intention. I swear that on whatever's still sacred in me. I just needed someone who remembered who I was. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, stranger. What's the occasion?" I hesitated. "You busy tonight?" "Not really." "Why?" I swallowed. "You remember what today is?" There was a pause. "Your anniversary." "Yeah," I said. "Only one of us did." She didn't ask questions. She just said, "Where should I meet you?" We met at the restaurant, my reservation still standing. The hostess raised an eyebrow when I said 2 instead of 1, but said nothing else. Emily looked beautiful in that simple navy dress, her hair tied up, minimal makeup, like she didn't come to impress, just to be present. "I feel like I'm stealing a seat," she joked, glancing at the wine list. "No one's missing it," I said. She looked at me then, not like her sister had looked at me for years. Not distracted or annoyed or half polite. She looked like she saw me, really saw me, and I cracked, just a little. We didn't talk about my wife much during dinner. We talked about movies, about how the seasons were shifting, about a memory from when we all went camping and my tent collapsed in the middle of the night. We laughed. Not nervously, not bitterly, just laughed. After dinner, we walked a while. The streets were buzzing with weekend life, couples holding hands, kids running past ice cream trucks, music floating out of open patios. I hadn't felt part of any of it in years. But next to Emily, I felt something like belonging again. At one point, she reached out and took my hand. It was small, but it was something. I didn't kiss her. I didn't cross a line. I just held that hand longer than I probably should have. When I got home, the house was dark. She was upstairs, already asleep, or pretending to be. Her phone buzzed once beside her on the nightstand. I watched it light up. No message from me would have made her stir. I left mine on silent and sat in the living room instead, just thinking. I don't know when I first started pulling away in return. Maybe it was that night. Maybe it was months before, when I realized I couldn't remember the last time she asked me how my day was. Or when I stopped hearing, "I love you," without prompting at first. Or when she stopped laughing at my jokes. But that night cemented it. I was alone, and she didn't notice. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. She asked if we needed milk, if I could take the trash out. There wasn't even a flicker of recognition in her eyes. No guilt, no sheepish grin, just routine. So I started making plans. Not out of revenge. Not out of spite. Just preparation. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't have an affair. I didn't even bring it up. I just started shifting emotionally, slowly packing my heart into boxes. Then came the call. 2 days later. Hey, she said, casual as ever. Did you want to do dinner tonight? I'm off early. I didn't answer right away. What's the occasion? I asked. What do you mean? Nothing, I said. Just wondering. She laughed, like I was being playful. Maybe I just miss you. The words felt strange in her mouth, like they were trying on someone else's clothes. That night, I went back to the park. I sat under the same oak tree where I proposed to her 10 years ago, hands tucked into my jacket, heart heavier than I cared to admit. And that's when I took the photo. It was simple. Just my hand. A ring box. Not open. Just the promise of something inside. Something new. Something she'd never ask about. I sent it to her with no caption. 5 minutes later, she called. I didn't pick up. Let her wonder. Let her try to remember what she forgot. Let her feel that silence press in. Because sometimes, silence says everything. She called 3 times that night. Each call came faster than the last, like urgency had finally found its way into her bloodstream. Like the photo had stirred something. Jealousy, maybe, or confusion, or some belated sense of loss. I stared at my phone and didn't answer. Not because I was trying to hurt her, but because I was tired of explaining myself to someone who stopped listening a long time ago. The next morning, she tried again. This time, she texted. What was that photo about? I didn't respond. She came home early that evening. I heard the key in the lock, her usual way of entering the house. Casual, distracted, like the home wasn't a place she returned to, just somewhere she passed through. But that night, she paused in the entryway. Are you here? She called out. I stayed seated in the den, leafing through an old photo album I hadn't touched in years. It was mostly dust by then. Yellowed edges. Smudged fingerprints. Smiles we no longer wore. She stepped in slowly, like I was the stranger. She looked tired. Her makeup had faded. Her blouse was half-tucked. She held her phone in her hand like a weapon, ready to demand answers. Who's the ring for? I looked up. Does it matter? She blinked, thrown by the calm in my voice. I mean, of course it matters. You sent it to me. What am I supposed to think? I closed the album gently and set it aside. I don't know, I said. What did you think? She sat down across from me, unsure, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to decipher a language she used to know fluently. Is it Emily? That stopped me. I hadn't expected her to guess that quickly, but the flash in her eyes told me something I didn't expect to see. Not just jealousy, but fear. Not fear of betrayal. Fear of being replaced. She remembered our anniversary. I said. My voice was low. Not cruel. Just honest. She stared at me, stunned into silence. I waited. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked. I forgot. Okay. I had a million things going on, and I forgot. It wasn't on purpose. I know, I said. That's what makes it worse. She flinched. I didn't mean to twist the knife, but it had been sitting in my chest for too long. I needed to take it out. You didn't forget because you were angry, or because we fought, or because you wanted to make a point. You forgot because I stopped mattering to you. That's not fair, isn't it? Her silence was answer enough. I gave you 10 years, I continued. 10 years of making plans, remembering your favorite songs, waking up early to warm your car in the winter. You used to notice those things. Now you just don't. Her face softened. Things got hard. You started pulling away too. I nodded. Yeah, I did. After the 5th unanswered text. After the dinners spent staring at your phone. After the 3rd anniversary in a row where I was the only one who planned anything. I started pulling away because I was tired of chasing someone who never looked back. She swallowed hard. And now what? You're just done? I stood slowly and walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. She followed behind me. I didn't cheat, she said. I know. And nothing happened with Emily? I turned, glass in hand. No, but it could have. She looked like she'd been slapped. But I didn't say it to hurt her. I said it because I'd meant it. That dinner with her, I said, was the first time in years someone looked at me like I was worth showing up for. She sat down at the counter, slowly, like the weight of everything was finally catching up to her. Did you buy a ring? I nodded. For her. No, I said. For myself. That confused her. I walked to the coat closet and pulled the box from the inside pocket of my jacket. I handed it to her gently. She opened it. Inside was a simple silver band. No diamond. No engraving. Just a ring. It's a symbol, I said, of a promise I'm making to myself. She looked up at me, eyes full of questions. I'm done being someone's afterthought, I said. I'm done waiting to matter. This ring? It's not for a woman. It's for a man I've been neglecting me. Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones. I didn't know you felt this alone. That's the problem. You didn't notice until someone else did. She reached across the counter, took my hand. Can we fix this? She asked, her voice small. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back, either. I don't know, I said. Do you want to? Or do you just hate the idea of someone else seeing me when you stopped looking? She didn't answer. And in that silence, something settled between us. Not finality. Not yet. But distance. The kind that doesn't get bridged with one night of tears and apologies. I'm not moving out tonight, I said. But I'm not staying for nothing either. What does that mean? It means I need time. And space. And honesty. And Emily? I looked her in the eye. She's not the reason we're here. But she reminded me I deserve better than this. That night, we slept in separate rooms for the first time in our marriage. Not out of anger. Just necessity. The next morning, I made coffee again. Just for myself. She didn't come downstairs until I was walking out the door. She stood in the hallway in her robe, watching me with the quiet of someone who finally saw what was slipping away. I'm sorry, she said. I nodded. Me too. Then I left. Not forever. Not yet. But for the first time in a long time, I left for me. The thing about silence is that it teaches you what noise never could. I moved into a small rental a few blocks from the house. Not far, but far enough. It was quiet. Sparse. A worn couch, a coffee pot, and a window that caught the afternoon sun just right. For the first few days, I barely unpacked. I just sat. And I listened. Not to her. Not to Emily. To myself. It had been years since I really heard my own thoughts without filtering them through her moods, her schedule, her silence. I started going on long walks. I bought groceries without a list. I cooked for one. Slowly, painfully, the shape of my life started to look like mine again. She texted every few days. I'm thinking about us. Can we talk? I'm sorry. I didn't ignore her. I just didn't answer right away. Some silences needed to be sat in. Not as punishment, but as pause. A moment to reflect before reflexively returning to what used to be. Emily reached out once. I didn't mean to complicate anything. I replied. You didn't. You reminded me I was still here. She didn't message again after that. I think she understood that this wasn't about her. It was about a man crawling out of the shadow he had built around himself. A man remembering who he was before he became a background character in his own life. 3 weeks after I moved out, my wife showed up at the rental. No warning. No texts. Just a knock at the door on a rainy Sunday afternoon. I opened it, and there she stood. Hood up, mascara slightly smeared from the walk. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She walked slowly, taking it all in. The empty walls. The quiet. The ring box on the counter. I thought you might have moved on by now, she said. I shook my head. I didn't leave to find someone else. I left to find me. She nodded, then turned to face me. And did you? I'm starting to. She walked over to the ring box, opened it, stared at that simple silver band. Do you still wear it? Some days. She was quiet for a long time. Then she sat on the couch and looked up at me with eyes I hadn't seen in years. Not distracted, not cold. Just tired. And real. I forgot our anniversary, she said. But it wasn't just that day. I forgot us. I forgot how we started. I stopped choosing you. And I don't know why. I sat across from her. Because I let you, I said. Because I stopped asking you to. She shook her head. That's not fair. It's not blame. It's truth. Her lip trembled. I was selfish. So was I said. I made it easy for you to forget me because I stopped showing you who I was. Silence stretched between us again, but it wasn't sharp anymore. It felt like air returning to lungs that had held breath too long. I want to fix this, she whispered. I looked at her, not the version I used to chase, but the woman sitting right in front of me. The woman who had finally cracked open enough to admit her own part in the collapse. I don't want to go back, I said. Her eyes widened. What? I don't want to rewind to who we were. I want to start over. Clean. New. Different. Or not at all. She nodded slowly. How do we do that? By telling the truth. Every day, even when it's ugly. She smiled, just barely. And the ring. I reached for the box. Took it out, slid it on my finger. This, I said, is still mine. It's a promise I made to myself. But maybe if we get there, I'll buy another. For you. One that means something new. She reached across the space between us. And this time, I met her hand halfway. We didn't kiss. We didn't cry. We just sat there, hand in hand. Two people who had nearly lost each other. Two people who were finally honest enough to say, I forgot. I failed. But I remember now. And I'm willing to try. Maybe love isn't about holding on tighter. Maybe it's about letting go of what wasn't working, so something true can finally breathe.